Hello, I am Qammer Abbas and you are watching IEEE VTS seminar. If you are a student or a supervisor, then today's seminar is for you because we have Dr. Qammer Abbasi, who is an associate professor at the University of Glasgow. I will let the detailed introduction to him, but what I can tell that he is going to talk about or he's going to walk us through the top tips and maybe some stories that we all recognize either being a student or being a supervisor, because this is something I would say that a supervisor or student relationship is one of the most durable relation during your academic career. It can last very long or it can be a very tricky one. So we need to learn both ways, how to be supervised and how to supervise. So without any wait, I would like to add Dr. Qammer Abbasi to the stream. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Taimur, for having me, and it's my pleasure to talk today.
Player is all ours, and it's really nice to have you. And I think the topic selection is quite interesting. I was also very curious to listen to you and have some reflection on the topic. So, could you share the screen? So
Yeah,
we,
yeah. Can you just confirm me that if you can see
yeah,
this? Just give me 1 second.
exactly. I can see it.
Yeah, so there will be some short surveys because it's like an interactive lecture. I try to make so maybe participants have to use Mentimeter to enter into some surveys. So yeah, here is the full screen. So is it visible now, Tamur?
Yeah, it is visible. Thank you. So I am going to add, yeah, here. So please go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you once again, Tamur. Thank you so much. So this talk is actually more focused towards students, but there will be some uh, tips for supervisors as well. So I myself is a supervisor. But this talk is more for a student how to interact and how to get maximum out of your supervisor. So there may be some humor, but it is not intended to anyone's specific personality. So it is just to make the talk light. So please ignore those kind of thing if they are specific to someone. So before starting, a disclaimer: I am supervisor to many students, and I am giving this talk. And for this talk, I would like to acknowledge Professor Muhammad Ali Imran, who helped me in this talk, and we delivered this talk together at many places. So, a brief introduction about myself, and the purpose of telling this introduction is to tell student that how many activities a supervisor is involved in, and I'm sure all supervisors have similar kind of responsibilities and workload they are doing. So myself, actually, I have a multi-million grant portfolio with extensive number of publications and an experience in multiple countries, including UK, China, Pakistan, and I am currently supervising, or I use word advising, 4 to 6 RAs, and I have around 20 PhD students where I am primary supervisor for 4 students. And so let's start. So I'm sure many of you have not met one of these. There are different kind of supervisors, and I'm sure many of you can recognize some of these names. And my favorite is Dr. Never Satisfied, because I feel myself I fall in this category. So I'm sure you have many kind of supervisors where some have their they come from different planet and talk about very crazy ideas. Some are who always change their directions. So this is very common. So this is how you have to deal. So one other thing to mention here is that this talk is not intended only for your graduate courses. Once you go into your practical life, you see similar scenarios where you have supervisor and supervisee relationship. You will be supervisor to someone, you will be supervisee to someone. So some of these things can be applicable to long term as well. So some of the common issues which create a bad relationship between supervisor and supervisee is the false high expectation on both sides. There can be a personality clashes. There might be some lack of communication between both parties. And there can be some other pressures as well. So I want to hear from you that what other common issues comes in your mind. So what I want you to do is that you can see on the screen, go to menti.com and use the code as shown in the screen 91689664 and type any common issue you are facing, or you can say that those are the common issues that are encountered by people. So like I gave you one example, false expectation. So please go to this link, add the code and type in any word, and we can see that on the screen, and let's discuss from there. So I'll just taking a pause for 30 seconds here for attendees to go to menti.com, use the code and write some common issues they think are the root for a non-healthy relation between supervisor and supervisee. I don't see anyone is writing, so it's pretty simple. Go to menti.com, use the code shown on the screen and type any word. So I'll just take a pause for a few seconds. Yeah, that's great. Few people are writing. So workload, criticism, stress, that's really good and all very relevant. There's a message. Anyone else with any thoughts on this? So from one of my previous talk, actually, I found some issues like people mention about high expectation, chemistry match, non-feasible projects, various new ideas, which I was just mentioning. Doctor new ideas who comes up with new ideas every week. Lack of communication is one of the major issue, and over expectation comes under lack of expectation. Skill gap, someone just wrote about workload, and then sometimes there is some hierarchy that a supervisor makes because of his or her big team, and in that way a student cannot reach to supervisor. So these are some of the standard common issues which people face. Now let's go to next short survey, that as a student or as a supervisee, what are the most important 5 attributes you want in your supervisor for an ideal supervisor? And we know there is nothing ideal in this world. So again, please go to menti.com, use the code 91689664 and try to select 5 attributes which you like to have in your supervisor. So I'll pause. Yeah. So I'll pause for 30 seconds. That's really good. That I want this talk to be interactive. So it will be really nice that all audience try to participate in it to give their inputs. So you have to choose here 5 attributes. Like the questions you will see is supervisor which has a friendly attitude, a supervisor with encouragement, a supervisor who creates exchange opportunities, physical access, who provides timely feedback. So in all my past experiences and even talking to students as well, the most important attribute student wants in their supervisor is encouragement. They want encouragement for their work. So there are ways to communicate criticism as well. So for example, if I do work for like um, 5 months and then I go to my supervisor and say that, oh, I don't have any results, or I got a wrong results, and instead of feedback from supervisor saying, oh, that's really good that you tried, but you should do this actually motivates student to work hard. But if a student go to supervisor and on the straight away supervisor say, oh, you didn't did anything, you wasted your time, and this demotivates students. So even you can see in the pie chart, the feedback from the student is that the most important attribute they want in their supervisor is encouragement. They want encouragement for their work, because if we talk about PhD, it's a long journey, and if you do not get encouragement, you get demotivated. And the second thing is a friendly attitude is very important between both parties, because it's a long journey, and you will see the analogies later on between PhD and a marriage. So it's a long relationship, and if there is no friendly attitude among the parties, then it creates a problem, and the journey is not so nice. And the third one is, which is very important, and even as a student, that was a very important parameter for me, that I get a timely feedback on my research work. Because if I am not getting a timely feedback, then I lose the track. And the fourth most important one was timely email response, because we are living in e-world, where we are now relying more on uh, electronic communication than face-to-face communication. And considering this COVID scenario, this virtual world is even more important. And student want a response to their questions. Student want timely response. And I do agree with all the attributes which student wants in their supervisor. And this is very important. So the top student expectation they want to see in their supervisor are honest and organized, easily approachable, and good listener. This is very, very important, that a supervisor listens to the student. And of course, everyone wants a helpful guy or girl who is always available to help. And students do not want to see in their supervisor is always busy and absent. They want someone whom they can go and talk, not committing enough time to the student, because students are living on their own. And as we know, we all have passed through same stage of these PhDs, master's degrees, that sometimes it is very challenging time where you are not getting results, you are not getting problem. So a student need a support with whom they can talk. So as I said, there is no ideal supervisor in this world, but as a student, I had a similar feeling that my supervisor should have a patience of sand, wisdom of Solomon, analytical clarity of Ada, and he should have stuff and brilliance like Leonardo and Newton. But the point is, there is no ideal world. So similarly, there is no ideal or dream supervisor. So the thing is, you as an engineer, or as a what I would say, as a professional, this is your job to maximize your output from a limited resources. So if you have some supervisor, or if you have some student, both ways, you have to live what you have, and you have to maximize the output. And how you can do that, probably we will learn by end of lecture few tips which can make these things happen. So as I was mentioning that uh, the PhD is a long journey, and there is strong analogy between a PhD, and a marriage, as you can see on the right hand side. So important point here is that for students, that if your advisor slash supervisor knows what to do, then trust me, you are on the wrong track, because innovation is a walk in the unknown field. Because student because if we talk explicitly about PhD, it is something very novel, and if your supervisor knows the answer to that, then it is not novel. So it's very important that you seek your autonomy and use your supervisor as an advisor and lead your work, control your own pace, and use the dedicated time of your supervisor wisely. Because if you go to him or her without any proper agenda, without any plan, then you will waste your and his or her time, and ultimately both parties will lose interest. So PhD is like a marriage for 3 to 4 years. So like you have to know your partner before marrying. So similarly, before choosing your supervisor with whom you will be spending few years and very important years of your life, you should get some details about him or her. So for example, who was advisor of your advisor, check his or her Google Scholar profile, talk to some senior students, and some other things as well. So let us see how well you know your supervisor. So can you think in your mind answer to these questions about your supervisor or advisor, that how many answers you know out of these questions? So just think the answers in your mind. So I'm sure many of you have already thought answers to these. And if your score is 4 to 5, if you know 4 to 5 questions answer correctly, then it means you know too much about him or her. If the score is 2 to 3, so you Google stalked him. And if it's 0 to 1, then you have a normal relationship. That's good. So important thing is that both supervisor and supervisee should understand the role in the start. If you understand the role, then things will be easy for both parties, because expectation management is very important. Either it's in your studies or in your practical life. If you manage those, if you clarify those in the start, and if you clarify the concepts in your mind, then the walk is very easy. And you can see analogy on the right hand side, that scientific and actual methods are always different, because when you go to lab, uh, the hypothesis and theory totally changes. So for a supervisor role, his or her main role is to motivate, to introduce, to provide evaluation on the quality, timekeeper, judge of progress, encouragement, creating a constructive environment. And the role of supervisee is to try, report, organize, structure, experiment, write, learn, study, check, prove, and so on. So the main role of supervisor is to monitor, review your work, assign future targets, and do any administrative work. And of course, as I mentioned, that if your advisor knows about the problem, sometimes of course they know the problem, but if they know the solution to the problem, then trust me, this is there is something wrong. This is not a right. Explicitly, if I say about PhD, it is not a PhD, because uh, it needs to be something novel. So as I said previously as well, one of the key thing is that you need to be autonomous as soon as you can. You need to be the leader of your work. You need to be on the driving seat. So this happened to me actually, and I'm sure it happened to many as well, that I had some problem. I've tried to look around for help. I asked supervisor, I asked colleagues, 1 week, 2 week, and 1 week later, or 1 month. In fact, after 1 or 2 months, I found the problem. So I found the solution to the problem. So the key here is that if I try to be autonomous earlier, then I would have saved the time. So the key here is, please try to be autonomous as soon as you can. And there is no unique recipe for a supervision or supervisee role. There are different styles given in literature. Some like uh, strong master relationship, where advisor is a master and student is apprentice working for the advisor. There are some passive handoff style, where advisor only do quality control, whereas student is an independent researcher who takes initiative, developing skills and solves problem. So the key here is that there is no unique recipe, and sometimes these relationship or these styles are not compatible. So you have to adjust here. So you have to think as a as a supervisee, you have to think of real incentive for your advisor. Because if you think of some incentive, then it will excite your advisor, and then he or she will invest more time, they will take more interest. No, the key here is that the chocolates will not motivate your supervisor. What motivates your supervisor is original brilliant idea, bringing some recognition and reputation to the group, good research results, originality, and coming up with new ideas and initiative. And they want to test new ideas which they couldn't test because they didn't have time. Because we know that during our PhD or a graduate degree, we have a limited time. We cannot test everything. We have so many ideas. And this is what your advisor want to do as well, that want to test new ideas which he or she couldn't because of time limitation. And this is what motivates your supervisor. So once you will motivate, then you will see things will change. And this is the way how you can motivate your advisor. So once, as I said, that you have to think of incentive for your supervisor, then you have to manage your interaction with the supervisor. This is your job. This is your responsibility. This is your PhD. This is your master's degree. And advisor or a supervisor has many things to do. Like I told you in the start about myself, and I'm sure all advisors have similar kind of responsibilities as well. And they have multiple students as well. So this is your job to manage your interaction with supervisor through regular meetings. Don't be reluctant. Ask for feedback. And the important thing is, do not waste time for both parties. Always set up a meeting with some agenda and try to use calendar invite to set up a meeting so that both parties do not forget about meeting. And in the meeting, always go well prepared that this is what I did, this is what I expect, and this is my plan. And try to present clearly and discuss your things in a clear way. And the key here is go prepared and ask for feedback and try to use shared tools for sharing data or papers or reports to get live feedback instead of emailing. And then, as I mentioned, that in this virtual world, everyone gets so many emails. So sometimes it's difficult to find emails. And whatever I'm telling is based on my experience, and I'm confident that it applies to many others as well. And there are sometimes a student has multiple supervisors. So it is very important that you decide in the start who is the boss, whom to follow. Because if you are on two boats, you will not reach to the edge. So this is very important that you clarify that in the start. So you have to control your studies yourself, and you have to plan the agenda. So in your first meeting, you should know what I want from my PhD, your career aspirations, skills. Months 2 to 3, what I'm doing here. Is there a project out there somewhere? And so on. By month 6 to 12, I have got a clue what the project is now. That you should have a clue that what you want to do. And this is basically you have to do this by regularly meeting your advisor, updating, taking feedback, incorporating feedback, and then things will move along. Now, the next thing is some people complain that my advisor is always in meeting. And trust me, this is the job of an advisor, that he has to manage so many things. So he will be in multiple meetings, either for teaching, either for research, either for administration, either for strategy. So you have to find your time in his or her calendar, because they have time, but it's all about managing it. And as I mentioned earlier, that this is your PhD, this is your graduate degree, and you have to take a control and you have to initiate the thing instead of waiting that my advisor will email me to say, okay, let's meet up. It should be other way around. And I mentioned that this already, that use calendar to book meetings, that both parties do not forget, provide an agenda prior to the meeting if possible, attach in your calendar invite. And after the meeting, this is very, very important, that provide a minutes of the meeting. It shouldn't be very detailed, just pointers, and keep that in share folder, that when you meet your advisor in the next meeting, he or she can open the minutes of meeting and see that what we discussed, because we are humans, we forget things. And if we have so much workload, people forget things what was discussed before, and it's good for both parties that everything is documented and it can be recapped. And then you give some action points to your advisor politely but clearly. For example, you send a paper to your advisor, you did a meeting, and then say that in the minutes of meeting, write an action item, Professor X sending a first review of the draft 30th October 2021. So you need to be explicit, you need to be polite, and you need to provide the maximum information to to make their life easy, because if you'll help them, they will help you. But if you will waste their time, then it will not be good. So similarly, this is very important, that you try to help him or her to help you. And as I mentioned, that in the minutes of meetings are very important. And another thing you do, that whenever you go to the next meeting, if possible, just give a recap like Game of Thrones, that what we talked in the previous meeting, and then we just quickly jump to the new meeting. So this will help to refresh things. And as I mentioned, that we are humans, we forget things, so this will make things important. Now the next question is, what is the meeting frequency? How often should we meet? There is no definite answer to this, and there are so much literature on this, that what is the optimum meeting frequency that should be between advisor and advisee. So I want to hear from you, that if you go to menti.com and use the code given on the screen to choose two options about the frequency of meeting. Anyone there? No one wrote any suggestions yet. Go to menti.com, use the code 91689664. I can see few attendees are selecting the options. So I'll pause here for like 15 seconds. Okay, so if you can see on the screen, and this survey is from previous talk as well, that basically around 43%, or I would say majority, thinks that the meeting should be bi-weekly. Because I remember that when I was a student, there was a meeting every week, and I feel so much pressure, and sometimes I cannot produce anything in 1 week. And ultimately, towards the end, I started losing interest in the meetings. So an optimal time is usually bi-weekly, where there is a meeting after every 2 weeks, and it's good for both supervisor to get update and also for supervisee as well to remain on track. Because if there is no check and balance, sometimes you get lazy, you get demotivated, and you don't work. So another highest score answer is on demand, and that is very important indeed. On demand is in addition to bi-weekly or weekly meeting. So this is what I said earlier, that you try to set up meeting with your advisor. If there is any issue, use a calendar, look for free slot, book it, and then meet. And other way around as well, that sometimes supervisors have some ideas, some projects to discuss, so they can call on demand meeting as well. So that's good to know that majority thinks that it should be bi-weekly, and there are some people, of course, they think it should be weekly. And it's on the perception as well. Some people are quick in producing results, and they want check and balance every week. So again, you can see even from the poll, there is no definite answer that how often you should meet your supervisor. And when to meet your supervisor, this is another question. And the answer to this is there is no definite day, but keep in mind, if your advisor is setting a meeting on Saturday or Sunday, trust me, he's workaholic. And best of luck for that. So, the common pitfalls where a student usually fell, they want to solve the whole world problem, they are addicted. Yeah.
Maybe we could have a couple of questions that are
Sure.
in relation to what you were presenting. We
Sure,
have.
sure.
So, should there be any brainstorm sessions for new ideas? And there is a follow-up question. Maybe we could use regular meetings for new ideas, or basically, yeah, I think what they want to ask is.
Yeah, so I got it. The question is both are interlinked to each other. That for brainstorming, should we have a regular meeting? So when I was referring to, and again, it depends on the choice. There is no subjective point here. So for brainstorming, usually a on demand or one to one meeting is preferred. But for the updates, that if there is a group, there are x number of students, so having a weekly or bi-weekly meeting to get the progress of the students, that is very important to keep both parties updated. And for brainstorming or for discussion of new ideas, I think a one-to-one meeting is preferred and good as well, because this will keep the ideas safe as well. I hope I answered the question. Tamur, any next question? I cannot see the
Yeah,
question, sorry.
we have one more.
Yeah.
I think it was from the earlier. What is the best way to communicate any issues to your supervisor?
Yes, this is again tricky thing, but I think as I mentioned that it is very important that you communicate your concern. So I think that slide will come later on as well, that you have to communicate what are you feeling, like in your relationship as well, in your life. If there is any issue, you talk to the other party. So similarly, if you have any complexity, any issue, please do not hesitate, just talk. Trust me, supervisor like this, that they are not offended with this, that if there is an issue and student talk to me. So the what they don't like is that without talking to them, you go and talk to someone else. So they love it, they like it, that a student come to them, discuss their problem, and then they try their best to solve it. And I have seen many scenarios, even in my students, in other cases as well, that where there were some issues, both parties talk to each other and it get resolved. But if you don't talk to supervisor your concerns, and then go and talk to someone else, and then that person talk to your supervisor, then sometimes they feel bad that he or she is my student and they should have approached me directly. So do not hesitate. This is the key, which I mentioned as well. Taimur, any other question?
No, I think that is all for now.
Okay. So I think I'll be closing soon, because I know I have 45 minutes. So I think there are 5-7 more minutes, and then we have ample of time for question answers. So the common pitfalls I was mentioning was that addicted to complexity, fear of exposure. So if you have a fear and you are hesitant to learn new things, then those are the common pitfalls. So you should always be open to learn new things, because this is throughout your life. If you are open to learning new things, if you do not have fear of exposure, then there will be less issues. But if you have these common pitfall issues, then in the long run you will suffer. So some top tips: avoid perfectionism, keep detailed notes, either for your meetings, either for your study, either for your research, either for your experiment. Documentation is very important, and this I'm emphasizing again and again. Take the lead. Always remember, it is your project, your paper, your thesis. So you need to be the lead. You need to be on the driver's seat. And just answering to the previous question where I said that don't be scared of your supervisors. If there is any issue, talk to them. They trust me. If you'll not talk, that is an issue. But if you'll talk, that is not an issue. And of course, you have to talk in professional way, and you have to talk with facts and figures, because as a scientist we like facts and figures. And you have to focus. In this virtual world we have so many distractions, and the research work needs focus. Write a literature review, read around your subject, go to conferences and workshops, try to network. This is the key. And practice presenting your work. And trust me, if you are discussing your ideas with other, it will get improved. Nobody can take your idea. You will get advantage of discussion, and it will get improved and improved. And try to talk to non-technical people. If you are from technical domain, or if you are from arts domain, from whichever domain, try to talk to people from different domain and get their angle in your research work, which will for sure improve your research work. And make small steps, set deadlines. If your advisor is not setting deadlines, set deadlines yourself, and try to make small actions for you, weekly, bi-weekly. I'll try to finish this, I'll try to finish that in 10 days, in 20 days. If you have a plan, trust me, life will be easy. And as I mentioned earlier, document everything. Document measurements, setups, data explanation, literature, meetings. This always help. So again, see, this is linked to the question being asked. You have to discuss your problem. Shocking fact, supervisors do not read minds. You need to make it obvious. You need to express your concerns. You need to ask questions. You need to discuss problems. And do not hesitate. This is the key here. And as I mentioned, that only human makes mistake, and this is very good practical ontology that humans make mistake. There is no perfect being. So mistakes can happen from advisor, mistake can happen from advisee. So do not be afraid of mistakes and try to be ambassador for your group. Try to play a role in the social network. Ambassador of your supervisor, ambassador of your team, ambassador of your ideas. And this will help you to network. This will help your group to grow. This will help your advisor to grow. This will help yourself to grow. And ultimately, it will be a collective benefit to all. And I think I'm very close to closing my talk. So the highlight of whole talk is stay positive, be positive, try to find solutions, not only problems. Come up with propositions, suggestions. And of course, as a researcher, sometimes you feel so down, negative thoughts come in your mind, which demotivates both parties, but you have to stay positive, which is the key. And you have to be in your supervisor to-do list. And I told you earlier how you can be in your supervisor to-do list. They are like human. They have things to do like you as well. So you have to stay in their to-do list. And that is by motivating them. That is by putting in their calendar your meeting, by exciting them with new ideas, and so on and so forth. And again, this is again the same thing I emphasize is that you have to lead, not follow. Give deadlines to your supervisor politely, because there are two ways to do it. As I mentioned, that you say to your supervisor, I attach the paper for X conference, cheers. And even before this virtual world, they have so much load, so they might end up ignoring the email and say that, okay, I'll do it at my own pace. Rather, you have to write in the email, dear professor, attach his paper for APS conference, and I would really appreciate if you could review this paper on 30th by 30th October. And it's better if you put in their calendar invite as well the deadline for the paper review, so that you are in their to-do list and you are following, you are leading the work, not following the work. And this is another analogy before closing the talk, that you have to be positive in taking criticism. Do not be negative when some criticism comes to you. Trust me, when I wrote my first conference paper, I got similar feedback from my advisor. When I got my paper, it was all red. I was so lost. I was so demotivated, but I tried to be positive, and then things move on. So the key here is that do not take criticism personally. Try to take that criticism as constructively as you can and try to incorporate that. So I'm not sure how many supervisors are there in the attendees, but this is what actually, based on some survey results I have collected from, I would say, more than 20 countries and from 100 plus advisors, that what are the most important attributes supervisors want to see in their students. And here are the results. They want their advisee to be responsive. They don't want that. They send an email, they call for a meeting, and no one replies. So the responsiveness is the key. And the second and third parameter, independence and initiative taker. This is what I was talking throughout the talk. Autonomous and incentive for your supervisor, which is initiative taker, bringing new ideas, bringing some crazy ideas, new discussions, and try to lead the work instead of depending on the supervisor to tell do ABC. No one likes that. And they want student to be organized. And of course, they do not want student to be social at all. But it's good that you should be social and try to network. But as a advisor, have interest in work. So, and another thing is that they want rigorous work from a student. So this is another thing they look from their student, because you are the lead for the work, you are on the driver's seat, so you know all bits and bytes of that work, so it should be very rigorous. And the expectation of supervisor are that a student is curious, creative, take responsibility and ownership. They meet with the supervisor by leading the work, and they use time effectively instead of wasting time. And they do not like a reactive student. They do not like who do not respect constructive criticism. They just ignore comments given by the advisor. And trust me, the advisor remember the comments they gave. So whenever you give them the response to comment, the first thing they look at is that if they have incorporated my comments or not. And that's all from my side with this closing slide, which can basically tell you in which year of your PhD you are. So with this, thank you so much. And I think I was exactly on time, 45 minutes I was given. So there are some references. And I would again like to thank Professor Muhammad Imran for helping with this presentation. So if you have any questions, I'm open to the questions, or you can drop me an email if you do not want to ask any question now. Over to you, Taimur.
Thank you, Qammer. I think it was very insightful, and it was quite interesting facts, because I could relate many things to my time as a PhD student. So I think it's it's quite practical. One thing I can tell, that there are lots of tips that, let's say if I go back many years, like the day when I started as a PhD student, if I knew all of this, I would have done much better. So I think this is the point here. We learn these things along the way, some easy way, some hard way. But yeah, and someone telling you all of this in advance, I think it's really a gift.
Indeed, indeed. I would certainly agree with you that if I knew this when I was doing my PhD, I
Yeah,
would have done much, much better, and my life would be much, much easier
easier,
with my
exactly.
PhD.
So yeah, but luckily we were in a position where we got some training initially, and we went through these details, and there were people who were guiding us. But still, I think it's really good, useful information, and I would suggest, and if there are many students watching us, I would suggest that please do share with your fellow students who are not here, so that they can also benefit from this discussion. And like Dr. Qammer said, feel free to drop him an email if you have any specific questions and you're not willing to answer it publicly. Because we do not have a channel to communicate verbally, but we only have a chat section. So do send an email if you have more questions. And with that, I would like to thank you, Dr. Qammer, for your precious time and for very insightful discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all the audience for listening to this talk, and thank you once again for inviting me to deliver this talk to young generation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.